Good morning. This is the JP Dinnell podcast, episode 108. I am JP Dinnell, and as always, I have Lucas with me. What's up, man?
What's going on?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm just reminiscing about how I haven't been to the moon.
Maybe we'll talk about that in another episode. Yeah, same here. Neither have I. Weird.
Yeah.
All right,
maybe,
what do you got?
maybe one of these days.
Yeah, maybe one day. What do you got?
Yeah, so I want to pick up where we left off in the last episode because we left 107 on a cliffhanger. You were out. You'd done a half-day workshop. Mm-hmm. Now you've ended up on an impromptu tour of an exotic game or an exotic wildlife ranch.
Yeah, I guess you could call that. So the client has a ranch, 1,000 acres, which is awesome, epic.
Yeah, barely enough.
It was cool because the client was telling me like that the company realized how much money they were spending on all of these, events and trainings that they're doing with all the different departments and regions. And I mean, putting on an event is very expensive. You know what that's like. I know what it's like at Echelon Front.
It's thousands and thousands of dollars to do an event.
Sometimes hundreds of thousands, depending on the scale and all those things. And so anyways, and this is what's cool. It wasn't the owners of the company that decided to do this. It was some of the leaders within the organization that had the idea of like, hey, why don't we buy this ranch, right? Let's buy 1,000 acres and then let's use it. And since they're a construction company, they realize that, hey, they have the talent and the work, the workers to be able to do it. And so they bought it, they built it up, and they've just slowly been adding to it. And I'm telling you, this place, 5 stars.
Yeah, no doubt.
Unreal. And I have actually more pictures like to show you of like the lodge. The lodge was awesome, beautiful, like lodge that had a full kitchen. They have a chef on staff, fully stocked bar, like fully stocked fridges with waters and drinks, and then, alcoholic beverages if people wanted that. Always had food and snacks out for people. Really nice dining room area, and then a bunch of like sofas for reclining and kind of hanging out, watching TV, having conversations, fire pit, restrooms, lodging inside of that area. Yeah. So upstairs there's like ping pong table and stuff for people to hang out, talk, and then there's rooms inside the lodge, and then outside the lodge, beautiful pool that overlooks like the whole property, and you get to see the sunset from there. Bunch of chairs out there, fire pit. They had skeet shooting sections up there as well. So from that deck, they can shoot skeet off of there. Big outdoor barbecue cooking area as well. And then they had another building that was just lodging, like you'd have like in hotel rooms, but these were beautiful, like really nice inside the rooms. And then they also had a classroom area that it was a very nice professional high speed classroom. I've been in a lot of different areas speaking. I would say is top ranked as well from the layout. And then inside there was restrooms, a little kitchen area, coffee area, snacks, drinks, everything. And then inside there, also, on the other side of the room, they had different office spaces. So when they're there conducting these 2 to 3 day offsite trips with different levels of leadership in the organization, they can be having their meetings, their trainings, and then also the ability for leaders to conduct work and meetings and things that need to happen. An awesome wine cellar. They had, a vineyard there as well. So they produced their own wine. We're able, it's just,
oh, that's rad.
It's crazy, like absolutely crazy. And then they also can do hunts there. And then so they had a section where I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, okay, that's where you can hang the animals and skin them and, and get them ready to be processed. And it was just awesome. And, so I did my half-day workshop, and one of the leaders, Aaron, that I was working with, who's my point of contact, phenomenal leader. Like, this guy is like in the game with Echelon Front's principles. You can tell he really cares. And, a few of the other leaders I met as well are they're all about like getting these principles into their team, but also recognizing like, hey, as leaders, we need to do a better job empowering our people to step up and lead and build better relationships. And so they're a great organization. And I was just really impressed by the humility of these leaders that if you look on paper, like, bro, they're crushing it. Mm-hmm. But they also have the humility enough to reflect and say, man, we're not doing everything we could be doing. There's a lot of areas of improvement. So they take this opportunity to bring their people out there for these offsites for training and investment into their people. Well, that's how it came about. This place came about not by the owners, but by leaders saying, hey, we should do this. This is going to save the company money, and this is a better resource for us. And so I bring that up is because anybody in an organization, if you think like an owner, it's going to change your perspective. And if you care about your organization, it doesn't matter if it positively impacts you financially. If it has a positive impact to the organization, that's what you should be doing. Like none of these guys, I'm assuming, got like bonuses or addition to their pay for saving the company money. They did it because it's the right thing to do. And so they've built out this phenomenal resource that the organization has. And they're booked out a majority of the year for their internal trainings, and it's improved the culture, and they have a lot of other cool stuff. And so Aaron told me, he's like, hey, the last half of the day I have the property manager, this guy named Jeremy, veteran, just awesome human being. He goes, hey, I have Jeremy available to take you around on the side-by-sides, show you the 1,000-yard shooting range, take you fishing, show you the property, like whatever you do. We just want you to be able to relax and enjoy the day. And I was like, okay, that's awesome. And so do the workshop. We have lunch, which, by the way, all the meals were absolutely incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely incredible. I mean, I was really impressed by just the level of detail that they put into everything. And so we have lunch, and I'm kind of sitting there. I was thinking about it. I was like, man, it would be good. I need to get home, spend some time with the kids. And I also didn't want to, I know how busy this property manager is. I didn't want to waste his time for him, having to take me around in the side-by-sides and show me stuff. Because the night before, Aaron, myself, and a few other leaders, we loaded up in a side-by-side, and he took me around, and I was able to see the shooting range at night and all these other things. And, nice shooting range, steel out to 1,000 yards, and they have they built a tower to where you can shoot from the second story. It's just, the whole thing is
rad.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's rad. And so I had told this guy, I was like, hey man, I don't want to waste your time. I know you're busy. I just, it's not needed. I appreciate it. Maybe I can come down at another time and, spend some time. And he goes, no, I have this set aside for the day, and it's something I'd like to do. I'm like, all right, cool. I was like, well, let me change out my shoes and shirt real quick. And he's like, all right, I'll meet you by that buggy. So I come back and I'm ready, and we meet at the side-by-side. We load up, and he's carrying his long-range rifle, which was a nice, I believe it was Savage Arms, and it was suppressed with a nice Night Force scope on it. And I was like, all right, cool. I was like, what caliber? He's like a 7 PRC. I'm like, all right, cool. And so we're just talking. We're driving around, and we're hitting the different trails, which it was crazy just being in that side-by-side driving on these dirt trails. I instantly felt my body relaxing.
Yeah.
I was just like, man, this is nice just to be able to do something like that. Because how often do we get to ever just go do something like that?
Rarely.
Yeah. And, it brought me back also to my times with my buddy, Steve Arian, and, a few other guys that I used to teach long range shooting with. We'd be out in Aspermont, Texas, which is north of Abilene. So the terrain was pretty similar to where we're at. And, we'd take side-by-sides out and go scout different shooting positions and stuff like that. And, so it brought me back to that. And I was like, all right, cool. This is awesome. And we're driving around, and I'm just kind of starting to just ask him questions, just how long has he been out there? What has he been doing? Blah, blah, blah. And which is cool is this guy's story is he was a field soup with the company. So he was a field supervisor with this construction company. They built out this facility, and as it was getting bigger and bigger, it just became one of those things where they needed somebody to full-time manage it, and he stepped into that spot, which is cool because, again, that's the example of leading up the chain of command. He saw a need that the company needed to fill. There's a leadership void there.
Yeah.
And he recognized that if somebody could be an actual full-time property manager for this location, it would thrive and it would be better. And there could be some continuity, and he could help put structure in and do all these things. And so this guy, is living the dream life. He's out there as a property manager, 1,000 acres. He has a house on the property. That's where him and his wife and his son live. And that's what he did. And, it's cool. It's one of the things he said. He's like, man, this isn't a job. He goes, I love what I do. He goes, and this company like takes care of me. I feel obligated to them because of how well they take care of me, how they respect me, you know, how they value me. He goes, you know, last night I was up doing stuff until well after 10 o'clock. And then I was up early this morning doing stuff. He goes, and that's not a normal job. Like people at their normal jobs aren't going to have to do that. He goes, I don't even think twice about it because it's a lifestyle that I get to have.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wanted to share that is because, you know, when you have this opportunity like he had, you know, you got to seize those opportunities. You know, you got to step up. You have to lead. He didn't expect anybody to create this for him. He developed it. He built it. He provided value, and he's got an incredible opportunity right now. And so we're driving around, and you know, I'm asking about like shooting, like you know, rifle, pistol, long range that they do out there, and you know, I was talking about Bruiser arms and what we do with Bruiser arms, and you know, and he knew that Aaron and I had talked about you know us potentially doing something out there with Echelon Front because Aaron was like, hey, he goes, if you guys want to use this for an ELT offsite or, you know, something Echelon Front related, like, let me know, we can work something out.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking with this guy about it. And he's like, here's the thing I know about this company is they want to take care of people and they like to take care of the people they're in like business relationships with. And, you know, Aaron's boss is my boss and Aaron's the one that would, you know, help facilitate that. But he goes, I wouldn't be surprised if it, you know, looked like this for you guys. And so we were talking through that and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then, you know, mentioning Bruiser arms and what we do with the weapons kits and how, you know, he's like, well, what's the difference between like me just going out and buy something or Bruiser arms? And I said, well,
I touched it.
Yeah, no. I said, you know, we're putting together the kit and there's going to be people that aren't like you, Jeremy, that, I mean, you're a gun nut, you know, all the specs, you know, I was like, you know more about like the technical side of weapons than I do. Mm-hmm. And he like looked at me. I'm like, no, I promise you do. I was like, I just know how to shoot them somewhat decent and teach people how to shoot them somewhat decent.
Yeah.
But when it comes like the specs, I have other buddies like you that really dive into that. I said, so we have guys at Bruiser Arms that are helping build out these kits that, dude, they love all the gun nut specs. They're really good at that stuff. And it's a complete kit. Like you don't have to think about it. And our target audience is somebody that wants to be able to have a high-end weapon kit that they can just purchase. They don't have to piece it together. They don't have to, quote, build it out by, you know, it's all done for them. He goes, okay, that makes sense. And I said, you know, the other thing that I've been talking with Brad and Chantry about that I want to put together and, you know, present to Leif is actually putting together training packages for people that, one, if you bought a kit, we're going to train you. But then also there are people that already have their weapon kits that they like, they're good, they're set up with, but they want training. So now we can provide them training, but we're going to use Bruiser Arms kits while we're training. So that just provides exposure to Bruiser Arms. And then also at the end of the day, like, hey, I don't care if you use our weapons kit or not. If you have a weapon, you should be trained. And he goes, that's the biggest thing that's missing in America is education and training and people helping people understand how to use weapons properly so that they're not afraid of them. He goes, you know, we had a group that was out here and, you know, a few of them were like very, you know, afraid of weapons, didn't want to be around them. And he goes, and then but they all came out of the range, whether they wanted to shoot or not. It was a group thing for the company. And, you know, he's like, I had one lady that was like, you know, guns kill people. I'm not going to touch those. And he didn't, you know, insult her. He didn't push back. He didn't say anything. He said, hey, you know, it's just a lack of training and awareness. You know, if you don't know about weapons, they definitely can be scary, and that's a valid thing. So he validated her feelings. He didn't make her feel stupid. He made her feel comfortable. They were doing training, and one of the things that they do that I'm a huge fan of is on the long range shooting, all their weapons are suppressed. So when you take that first shot, you know, with a long range rifle that's not suppressed, it can be intimidating. Mm-hmm. I mean, it can be really intimidating, really loud, you know, all these things. And he goes, so we take that away so that there's not the fear as they're doing follow-on shots. Mm-hmm. And he goes, by the end of that day of us doing this, it's just a basic like weapons fan, just letting them have fun shooting. He goes, this lady was asking me, hey, what guns should I buy? And I just
the switch flipped.
Yeah. And I told him, I'm like, bro, that is awesome. Like that is good leadership. That's good instruction. And so I bring that up because, a point from that is, hey, people are going to have their own perspectives. You've got to seek a way to understand their perspective, overcome those objections, and then allow them to see a different perspective. And he did a great job at that. And so, he started asking me questions about training, and he goes, yeah, I'm not very good at pistol. And I was like, bro, give me half a day. I said, we trade out whatever you want. Give me half a day. I would love to come shoot with you, teach you some basic pistol rifle fundamentals. And he was like, yeah, I love that. And we were talking, and he was explaining to me that when they take people hunting, people get like really nervous before they take a shot, elevated heart rate, all these things. I'm being polite, and I'm listening, I'm nodding, and I'm like, okay, yeah.
Like, a lot of people don't understand, like, buck fever or whatever you want to call it, like, is a legit thing. Like, that's what we always called it growing up with somebody who, like, the very first time they're in a deer stand and they see something with antlers, that they just get really excited, palms get sweaty, they forget to breathe, and it was more of a joke with all of our our family and everybody, but we all had that moment where I don't know anybody. I honestly don't know anybody that the very first time they put their crosshairs on like an actual big game worthy animal that they didn't nearly pass out or have to have somebody snap them out of it or remind them like, hey, you're about to miss this shot.
Yeah. I can't relate.
Yeah, right.
I'm joking.
It's one
I'm
of those
saying
things.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
But, and the reason why
we mentioned that on 107, right?
Yeah, and the reason why I'm sharing the story is because he's talking me through all this stuff.
And I just extra mansplained it for you, just so you had a little.
No, I appreciate it.
I just really wanted you to know that.
Yeah. Buck fever
the
is
NCCs
real.
We experience.
No, I get it. I respect that. And the reason why I jokingly but seriously said I can't relate is because of all the stress-induced training I had in the military.
Oh, 100%.
Like the amount of crazy stress-induced training that we would do for rifle, pistol, machine gun, long range, like you can teach your brain to rewire itself to where you can overcome that stress and just function within a flow state.
Versus a guy who's out there one weekend a year with 6 cups of coffees and half a bag of beef jerky into him, and he hasn't done cardio in 36 months.
Ate a bag of donuts on the way and just wondering why their body is feeling so weird.
Thanks to my blood sugar.
It's so weird. Why do I have blurred vision? I don't know. You're at 1,000 milligrams of caffeine before 10 a.m. with 200 grams of sugar. But anyways, and so, him and I are talking back and forth about some things, and we're coming up this trail, and he goes, oh, there it is. And I look, and I'm like, is that a horse? Because from a distance in the bushes, like I see this big white animal, and it looked kind of like a horse, like the body, like what I could see of the body. And he goes, no, that's the animal we're looking for. I'm like, oh, cool. And so then they kind of move around and they take off, and then I can see it. I'm like, oh, all right, cool. And then it moves over towards our left, and we kind of pull up. We pull into this tree in the shade, and we're looking at it, and just it stops, and it's looking in our direction, and he hands me his rifle and goes, shoot it. I have zero expectations that we're going on a hunt. Hunt, I use that term loosely, but zero expectations that I'm going to get to shoot an animal.
Right.
Zero clue. And literally just hands his rifle over to me. I've never shot this gun. I don't know anything about it. And I'm like, okay. So I take it and hold on to it. And, I get behind the gun and I glass the animal. And I'm like, all right. I'm trying to estimate the distance. I'm like, all right, it's, I don't know, maybe 75 to 100 yards, maybe. Through some trees, bushes, all that stuff. And I'm like looking at the bullet path. I'm like, all right, cool. Bullet path is going to be fine. And I just asked him, I'm like, 100 yard zero? He goes, yeah. I'm like, all right. I get back on the gun. And then I'm like, where are the vitals? Because I know that can change per animal. I have a rough idea. Okay, rough idea of where they would be, but I don't know, could they be up a little higher, a little bit lower? Right. And I'm glad I asked him, and he's like, oh, good question. He goes, they're up a little bit higher than you'd think. That bottom is a lot of open space. And he's like right above the elbow, where you can see where the elbow, like not the elbow, but like up towards the shoulder in the body area. I was like, all right. And I poke on his body. I'm like, right here. And he goes, yeah. I'm like, okay.
It's a little unsettling.
And so I get back on the gun. Good sight picture, stabilize. I just pull the trigger out, get the slack out, kind of exhale. just through and through shot, like double lung shot. Animal falls exactly where it was standing. Didn't run off, didn't do anything. Because, you remember, like, I know we've loosely talked about this. I don't think I've ever shared on the podcast. Years ago, I went hunting with a buddy, with Aiden, for some deer. And, I shot a deer for about 200 yards with my AR. And I've shot some hogs and coyotes out of helicopters and then also on the ground, but I've never been like on an actual like kind of hunt, especially of an animal of this caliber. It's a really nice, like, sought after animal that people hunt, I guess.
The scimitar horned oryx.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
had
And
to write it down to remember it.
yeah, I've repeated that multiple times. And so, it just drops right where it's at, falls inside, through and through, it's bleeding out. And he goes, "Dang, that was a perfect shot." I was like, "Cool." I'm just like, "All right." So we're sitting there and I'm looking at it. I'm like, "All right." So I'm like trying to like take a picture through this like scope, like with my phone. Obviously it's very hard to be able to do, so I'm not able to. So I just take a picture so I get the scope and you can see the animal in the distance. And then it gets up and I'm like, "Oh man." He goes, "That's normal." And it gets up, goes 10 yards to the shade and falls down and dies.
Yeah.
And again, not
all
expecting
reflexes.
that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, "What?" Like, I'm literally watching it bleed out. Like, the blood is like,
Yeah.
and then nope, reflex gets up, goes shade, boom, dead.
Yep.
And I was like, "All right, cool." So we go to where we shot it and you find the blood and, see the blood trail and look over and it's like right there. And I was like, "All right, cool." So he's like, walks up, he's like, "Dang, that's a perfect shot, man." And so we pull it out from the shade and kind of prop it up. And he's like, "All right, I'm going to go get side by side." And I'm just like looking at it and I'm like, "Man, that was kind of cool." Like, that was a really cool experience.
right?
And I'm like starting to process it. And I was like, "Man, I was not expecting to be able to do this today. That's really cool that they put this together and he let me do this."
Yeah.
And so he comes back with a side by side and we prop it up. And we take a couple photos. I had my half face blade, so of course I had to put the half face blade on in between the antlers. I sent that picture to Andy Arabito.
Oh, I'm
and
sure
he's
he
like,
was stoked.
"Bro, that is awesome." So we take some photos, and he's like, "Man, the winch isn't working on the side by side. We're probably gonna have to call somebody else with a winch to be able to load it up." And I was like, "Well, we could probably load it in the back." He's like, he's like, "That's a big animal." I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "It's about 500 pounds. Might be a little over." I was like, "Okay, we can try."
Yeah.
I'm just like, maybe I give myself the out on this one. We can try. And he's like, "Well, I mean, yeah, we can." He's like, I tried with my son. I wasn't able to, but he's also 13. He goes, "So, okay, let's try it.
Give it a shot." Yeah.
And, I feel bad because I can tell he definitely just wanted to grab a winch.
He wanted to grab the winch.
Let's just do it with a winch. It'll be so much easier. It's hot, middle of the day, we're out there. And he's like, "All right." So we drag it towards the back of the side by side. And as we're dragging, I'm like, "Oh, this is dead weight. It reminded me of like in the SEAL teams when we would be training and we would tell somebody that they're dead in training, that we would get onto them, but hey, don't help yourself up. Like when your buddies are picking you up, don't stand up, don't help them. Like if you're dead, you have to be dead weight so your guys can learn how to move dead weight, because a dead human with gear on is absolutely miserable to move, to drag, to lift up, to get over your shoulders, to fireman carry, to carry between two guys or three guys. Like there's an actual real training part to that. And so it reminded me of that as we were like dragging it, and he gets up in the back of the side by side and he goes, "Okay, hand me the horns." And I'm like lifting from the base, and he goes to grab, and he goes, "The horns aren't going to break," because he knew I was already concerned. And I could just imagine like them breaking, me being like, "You got some bubble gum to put that together?" Again, I don't know. Yeah. And so lift it up, he's back, he grabs it, and he's pulling as I'm lifting the front of the animal up, and he's like, give me one of those feet, and he's struggling. I'm struggling to get up there, and I didn't say it, but I wanted to be like, "Bro, I am trying to get you this this leg so you can pull it." Fine, I kind of get underneath it, bear hug it, lift it up. He grabs the foot, hoof area. He's pulling that with the horns, and it's comical because he's not able just to lean over and pull straight up. He's having to pull back into the side-by-side, which is creating some friction against, the tailgate.
Yeah.
And so he's pulling, I'm lifting, like inching along. And so we get both the feet up there, upper chest area. He's like, all right, get under that bottom and get it up here. And I was like, oh man, it's a big animal. And so I go to the bottom.
He did try to tell you.
Oh, I know, he did. Very valid. And so I get to like the bottom section of it, and I'm like, how am I gonna just lift this? I can't grab it by its tail. I can't grab it by its back legs and just lift. So I squat down as low as I can, widen my legs like a sumo squat, trying to get my butt as close to the ground as I can, and I just scoop under, and I. Like, strongman, when they're lifting those big stones, they roll back.
Atlas stones, yep.
And so I grabbed it. I just rolled back, got the weight on my like belly, chest area, leg, and then just like lifting, like a deadlift and squatting. Bro, my legs were just like shaking so bad as I'm like getting it up. And I get it up a little bit, and I pin it against the tailgate. I readjust. I get it up a little bit, boom. And he's like pulling the whole time as hard as he can. And we finally get like the back little half of it on, and I push it on, and then he pulls it, and then I'm able to like push it all the way in there, and he just like steps back against like the cab of the side by side. He's just like I am laying on the animal, like trying to catch my breath, seeing stars, and he's like, good job. He's like, all right, let's get back. And so we close up the tailgate. We head back, and I'm like, man, that was awesome. Thank you. And so we're talking. We head back. We go to hang it, and he immediately, he's let me help, do everything. And I was like, hey, you need me to do this? He's like, no, I really enjoy this process. Like, I really like being able to do this.
That's cool.
He just, did the whole thing. I was sitting there watching, helping when I could. His ability to skin the animal so quickly was really impressive. And the way he skinned it to preserve the hide and everything else was pretty awesome as well. And so, he's running through the process, and then he's like, hey, do you have a cooler? I was like, no. He's like, oh, I can get you a cooler. He's like, do you want to take some of the meat home tonight? I said, absolutely. So he cuts like 2 of the tenderloin, the back straps off, and puts those on hooks, and, going through the whole process. I was like, man, I didn't think we were going to get to do this. This is awesome. I was like, I didn't expect I was going to take meat home. He goes, this animal's yours. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, we're going to get this process for you. You get all the meat. I was like, are you serious?
Pretty dope.
I was like, I had no idea. He goes, I know. We wanted to do this for you. I was like, wow, thank you very much. And, so we're just going through the process. And it was really cool to watch him, like, just in the zone, his craft, really good at this. And he was sharing stories with me about how when he, first learned how to, skin and what is it called, field dress an animal, was like not on hooks. But when he was laying down, so you got to hold up the legs, you got to do all these things. And it was cool because he shared a story with me when he was 12, when he went hunting with his grandfather, like, you didn't shoot, he shot. You were just there for the process, and you helped out. And he said when he's 12, his grandfather handed him the rifle and says, take the shot. He goes, so I take the shot. I'm all nervous. I miss. And his grandfather goes, good. We got that one out of the way.
That's exactly what it's like.
The NCCs,
100%, yes.
And so he gets that out of the way, and he tells me that, and then he, ended up getting the animal. And then, he was able to kill that animal when he was 12, and him and his brother and his grandfather, they brought it back, and his grandfather doesn't say anything to him, just hands him his knife, walks away and leaves to go grab another animal. And he said, he didn't tell me to clean it, but my brother and I knew we were supposed to clean it. And he goes, from all those years of just watching him do it, by the time he got back with another animal, we had it completely field dressed. Yep. And we did it the right way because we had watched and we observed, and my grandfather taught us how to do it the proper way. And I was like, man, that is incredible. And so now it was cool because he was showing me and kind of talking me through it and teaching me, like, hey, you do it this way for this. Some people do it this way. I like to do it this way because, and then he showed me, I was like, oh, that's very effective. Yeah. And, as he's, there was no mess, like no puncturing of anything, like field dressing. It was a very clean process.
That is the number one way that
meat gets ruined, right?
ruined. Yeah, 100%.
Dude, I was so impressed by how meticulous and this guy was in his attention to detail and just very like skilled.
Yeah.
And it was awesome because again, he's a property manager. This is one of the many things he does,
Yep.
but he loves it. Like he loves what he does and he does it to his fullest extent. And so we're talking through everything and he was like, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that, I preserved, the hide so it can be, do a shoulder mount or something else like that. I was like, oh, cool. You guys going to mount like the head? He goes, yeah, that's yours. We're going to get it mounted for you. And I was just like, man, this is unreal. And so we, hang everything
Quite
up.
a thank you.
Yeah. So we hang everything up and he's, explaining the process of what you do and how you do it and why you do it. And, next day bringing it to the processor. And it was cool because some of the clients came up and we were like, oh man, nice. I'm like, who got that? And he was like, yeah, JP did. And he was joking. He's like, yeah, you told me he was a sniper and, whatever, and so he missed his first shot. So I was like, man, I couldn't. And guys like looked at me like, what? And I just was like, just standing there. He goes, no, it was perfect shot. And so it was cool to see the clients like come down and watch and then be engaged. And they were all so fired up for me. They're like, dude, that's awesome. You got to do that. And it's just like, hey, Jeremy's the man. This is what he does. Like, this is what we get to do here at this company. And so we went through that process and, then I went and talked with a few of the other leaders, after they got done doing their debrief, which is cool because after lunch, they spent 2 hours debriefing the workshop that I did with them for, hey, what's our next steps to implement these things into the organization? And so they ran through all that. By the time they got done, we were done with this process, went up, talked with a few leaders, and then, it was time for me to get on the road. So, went and grabbed the meat that was hanging in the freezer that he told me to take, threw it in a bag, put that bag inside of a garbage bag that had a bunch of ice, put that in another bag. So it was, triple bagged up and, was able to come home with just some awesome, fresh, beautiful meat. And it was just a really cool experience, but unexpected. But it was like really cool to be able to have that interaction with this guy and for him to share. And I won't share some of the personal details he gave me, but like just how well that company's taking care of him, the opportunities they've given him, but also the opportunities that he has created and other leaders at this organization have created as well. And then, we jokingly talked about, buck fever and how I was being a smart aleck when I said I can't relate. That's one of the things that I talked with him a little bit about, and I talked with another leader about is, I didn't get those feelings. I wasn't nervous. I was like, cool, awesome. All right, this is a weapon. I've never shot this weapon before. Cool, this is your hold. All right, that's the distance approximately. And I was able to just do that without getting stressed out, without getting nervous, because of just years and years and years of training. And that's one of the things that we talk about at Echelon Front is it's critical that you take the time to train your people. And it doesn't matter what you do. And if you're in law enforcement or in fire, I know we have a handful of, our first responders that listen, you should be doing some sort of training every single day. And I know the objection that we get is like, well, hey, it takes a lot of time. I don't have time. You can't say that anymore. It's just not a priority. And if you understood the value of training, you would make it a priority because I'd have to look back through pictures. I don't even know the last time I was on a long gun. Like I can't, if you were to say, hey, when's the last time you shot your long gun? I'd be like, I don't know. I would literally have to look back through pictures.
Yeah. The only time I can think of since we've talked, the last time I recall you talking about it was when you did the long range shooting course with Tony. Okay.
Yeah. So,
but that was like a year,
over a year.
Yeah.
So a year and 4 months. So 16 months ago.
Yep.
Yeah. And then before then, I don't know.
Yeah. But that's a long time to go between shots.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right.
And, there was no warm up on the range. There was no dry firing. There was none of that. It was like, boom. And I'm not saying that to brag about like my abilities as a sniper or long range shooter, whatever you want to call it. I'm not in the military, so I guess I'm not a sniper anymore. Used to be. But training, right? And, training builds fundamentals and a baseline from which we can operate from. And I think that's an important thing that people just need to take into consideration. That's why we talk about the field training exercises that we have at Echelon Front. it's a great opportunity. We talked about that in the last episode. The muster that's coming up in December, it's training. It's leadership training with Jocko, Leif, Dave, Jamie, myself, all the instructors, 2 full days of training. So the high performing companies, they invest in the training. The high performing individuals, they invest in the training. Whether you're training your people or training yourself, it's something that should be happening all the time.
100%, man. And we've got some questions I know some people want to get to, but I think maybe we save those for episode 109, unless you want to tackle one, because there's one I think that relates to this.
Yeah, let's do it real quick.
How do you show appreciation to your clients? Like this was obviously was something that that clients did to show you that they appreciated, but there's something that a lot of emphasis is being put on now. Is like, what do we do to show appreciation to our clients? It's something that for a lot of, I know, business professionals, it's not something that's at the top of their list of things to do, right? Like, my secretary gets gift baskets for whoever or whatever, right? So what do you have suggestions, I'll put it that way, on things that you do or that you recommend for people to show clients that they appreciate them? Because the other thing is that sometimes it can feel a little awkward to do something or to get something for a client.
Yeah, I think, the more customized you can make it, the better it's going to land, because they're going to recognize like, oh, they listened, they thought about it, they took some initiative. And in order for you to make it a customized thing, that means that you're actually going to have to get to know that person. You're going to have to know about their family, their organization, their marriage, what are they into, sports, any of those things. Like getting to know what they like and what's important to them, and creating some sort of a system so that you can remember these things. Yeah. One of the things I do, not with everybody, but I've been trying to do it with as many people as I can in my phone. When I have a contact saved in the little notes section, as you scroll down, I'll put like important things in there, like kids' birthdays, anniversaries, whatever. And that way, hopefully I can remember those things, or if I'm, scrolling through. And then the other thing is, some of those I'll put in my calendar, like as just a reminder, Cody's son's birthday, Cody's second son's birthday, Cody's daughter, Cody's anniversary, things like that.
Shoot a text, send a card, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I would do that also. I've done that with clients. When I was doing sales and, I'm having these calls, I'm taking notes the whole time. And then I'd put all that information into the CRM that we had. And I've used a couple different CRMs over the years. And any good CRM is going to have the option for you to add notes, right? Yep. Additional information that you can put in there. And I would put that in there. And for some of them, I would set reminders within the CRM to, remind me of those things. So that way when I had the following conversation, I could, hey, I know your son was leaving for college. How's that going? Yeah. And so I think just being intentional with finding ways to connect to people is really important. I like, writing letters, so I just had,
bro, I've really fallen in love with letter writing.
Yeah. I, this year I've tried to start doing it more. I need to do it more often. But recently I, from some FTX attendees that I had conversations with and needed to mail some stuff out to them, like I added a handwritten letter to every single one of them. And so, Echelon Front, we have these, Echelon Front cards, and I reached out to one of the ops team members, and, they just resupplied me with 50 new cards and mailing envelopes. And, so I'll do that as well. Like just sending somebody a card as a reminder, or, hey, thank you for allowing me to be a part of your company's training, and then I'll just add some things like, hey, as a reminder, boom, 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 boom. If you ever need anything, let me know. I also will do that via text message, and I'll also send video texts to clients. Hey, appreciate the day. Hope you're doing well. Just want to check in. So it's just finding unique little things that if it's important to them, find a connection and, show them that you actually listened and that you actually care about them.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that is a miss for people, is that when we think about giving a personalized or a custom gift or a special gift or whatever, that normally it's logo centric. Like it's one thing to give a personalized gift, right? Versus like, no, you did something with our company, so here's a bunch of Echelon Front stuff.
Yeah.
And like for some people that's cool, but more often than not, there's a guy named John Rulin who I guess he passed away probably like a year ago. He wrote a book called Giftology, which is like one of my favorites. And his big thing that he always did, because he was hired by companies to give gifts to their corporate clients. So he was like their gift guru. And one of the things that he would say is that, like, if you are going to spend less or $25 or less, write a note because it'll be more impactful.
Yes.
And then if you're going to spend $100 or less than $100, his thing was he always went with like the Cutco paring knife. And he would have it because it's something that people would use in the kitchen all the time. And he would have it customized for, whoever it was, like whatever person. He would just have their last name engraved on it. It came with all the fun, Cutco warranty and, to send it back and sharpen it, a whole nine, whatever that is, right? And he said he got more return business from people with the Cutco knife because it became a conversation piece. People would be like, oh, that's such a nice knife. And it's got your name on it. Where'd you get that? And it was his clients' wives who were like, oh, our, so-and-so John's guy got us this thing and whatever. And so they would want to do business with him because they wanted, the personalized thing. And
that's cool.
Just how this experience that was created for you, that was something that you didn't expect, had a tremendous impact on your relationship with this, like not just these individuals, but with this organization.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And if we can do the same thing for the people that we do business with, or the people that we're leading, and figuring out what those things are, maybe it is the small experience that you can do. Maybe it is the letter of appreciation that or maybe it's somebody that really wants to take their kids to a baseball game, and for whatever reason can't do it, and you give them the tickets to go do it, or whatever that thing is. The thing I think that you said is the most important in all of it, is that it really is dependent upon how good the gift is dependent upon your relationship with the person. Yeah. Because the better you know them, the better you'll be able to give the gift. But also the better you know them, the better you'll be able to lead them and work with them in the future.
Yeah. And that's the most important thing, is how you lead them. And, at the end of the day, that's one of the greatest things that we can do as humans is, build strong relationships so that we can influence people and lead them down the right path. So it was a pretty cool opportunity. Yeah. And obviously, I don't want to, take away from any of the other clients that I've had over the years that have created incredible experiences for me.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of like really crazy things that clients have been able to provide for me and Amanda, and trips like, hey, we want you to come out and speak, half day workshop. I remember one of them was it was in Las Vegas at the Four Seasons. It was on a Wednesday, and that week, and it's like kind of you're coming off of all the COVID stuff. It was in 2022, so it's still kind of like
a little
whatever.
Touch and go still.
And they we're like, hey, love for you to come out and do a half day workshop on Wednesday, and hey, we're going to be here from Monday to Friday, so if you want to bring Amanda, we'll put you up and take care of all of your expenses the whole week if you want. Cool. And so I asked Amanda, and she goes, absolutely. Or I think it was 2021. And so anyways, and so we were able to go out there for a full week and stayed at the Four Seasons in Las Vegas. And, I had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday there. And their company paid for every single thing.
That's awesome.
Which I know not every company can do that, but they did that because they knew how busy I am. I'd done a lot of work with them, and they knew how it was important that if I could bring my wife with me on a trip to a nice place, that was important to me.
Yeah.
And then I've had other clients that obviously, they're not able to do that, but, them just reaching out and checking in on Amanda and the kids and, seeing how things are. So I've been so blessed at what I get to do at Echelon Front. It's absolutely unreal.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And one of the things I think that's been coolest and most rewarding for for us over the past 108 episodes is getting to see the community that's built around this podcast.
Yeah.
And the way that, if you look at our YouTube comments, you go to the @JP Dinnell podcast Instagram page, that you'll see where people are encouraging one another, helping each other on the path, and showing that the things that we're doing in these little conversations that we get to have and the interviews that we get to have and, the principles and things that we're talking about as we're getting close to wrapping up our series on the 4 laws of combat, which we've kind of spread out through a bunch of different things, the impact that that's had on people's lives. And so we really thank you guys for liking, subscribing, for following the show, for telling your friends about it, and for creating a community that is working to build each other up. If you want to get in on those conversations, go check out the @JP Dinnell on Instagram, also @Lucas Pinkert if you want to follow me, and the @JP Dinnell podcast. Check out our Hump Day Health Hacks that we're doing with the folks over at First in Nutrition. Jonathan and Ann have just completely hooked it up for us. And if you want some nutrition coaching from the people who are the best in the game, go to firstinnutrition.com/JPpod to get 4 free weeks of nutrition coaching. And one of the things that you're going to find out is that Jonathan and Ann, they're going to push you back towards those laws of combat, right? If you want to do good in your diet and you want to succeed, then it means you're going to have to take ownership of stuff. And if you want to take ownership of things, there's no better way to learn how to do that than to going to Echelon Front. You can check them out at echelonfront.com if you want an Echelon Front instructor to work with you or your business, meaning they do some personal coaching, CEO coaching, and executive coaching. You could actually have JP get on a call with you, do some executive coaching if you want to. Email them at info@echelonfront.com. They'll get you hooked up, or you can get to be part of that Extreme Ownership Academy. There's a live call on Mondays at 1 o'clock Central Time, and there's a lot of wonderful online resources that are a part of that. If you're finding that, being behind a computer, getting in on all this stuff has sparked your interest in maybe self-discipline, and one of the ways that you can do that is by getting in on a little Jiu-Jitsu. Maybe you go check out @JesusandJiu-Jitsu_USA on Instagram, or JesusandJiu-JitsuUSA.com. It's a ministry that JP and I belong to, where we do regularly scheduled Jiu-Jitsu seminars now throughout the country. Last week we were in Boston. We've got November 1st back here in the DFW area with some pretty incredible instruction that's going to be coming up, and it's a wonderful ministry and stuff to be a part of. You get a free jiu-jitsu instruction from a world-class jiu-jitsu athlete, or somebody who is currently defending the UFC BJJ title, and get to hang out with us, the other people who are involved in it. We'll have somebody share their testimony, and it's one of the ways that not only can you build yourself up in your disciplines physically, but also to learn some of those spiritual disciplines as well. And like we know, whenever you get off the mats, you're going to be a wretched, horrid, stinky mess, and there's only one better way to take care of your body after that shower, and that's with a little bit of beef tallow. So go check out littlecattle.co and get your skin taken care of, because when half of it was left on the mat because somebody was just grinding into you on your face and you were getting smashed, then you know what? You want that skin to heal properly so that it's so you're not spreading anything the next time you get on there. Also, the after sun care and the anti-itch cream are things that you can pick up there. If you want to be a wholesaler for any of that stuff, go email amanda@littlecattle.co. And then when you're getting redressed after you've done that application, you should rep your brands. Maybe you don't send that as a gift to your clients, but that is something that you and all the people in your organization should be doing. That you want to be wearing and proud of the organizations that they're a part of. And for all your apparel printing needs, go check out On the Path Printing over on Instagram. Shoot them a DM, and they'll make sure that you get squared away so that you can not only have great deals on stuff, but so that your brand is repped, your personal company is repped in a way that's comfortable and that gets people asking questions so that you can build that. Finally, we talked about the folks over at Bruiser Arms already with the custom gear packages that you can get made, the custom training that they're working on. If you want some of that done for you, go check out @Bruiser Arms. And finally, to the folks that keep us covered and recovering, it's the folks over at Origin and Jocko Fuel. So big thanks to Pete and Amanda Roberts in both of those areas. The folks over at Origin have some really rad new products that they're releasing right now for winter. The light down jacket looks pretty cool. And then you've got a pair of the flip-flops that I'm hyper envious of. And Josh has a pair of black ones.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that makes me angry.
Okay.
There's no one less deserving of a pair of Black Origin flip-flops than Josh, and I'm putting that on the record. No, they're super cool. They're incredibly comfortable, and if you want to go check out the Origin USA Instagram page, you can kind of see. I say kind of. You can watch the entire process of how those were made, what it took in order to do the QC on that product, and then all the stuff over at Jocko Fuel. We're drinking the hydrates today. We drink the Goes on a regular basis to keep us fueled. They've got creatine, which there's only more studies coming out to show the benefits of creatine for cognitive function, for muscle and bone repair and density, for all of the things that you need in your recovery and in staying strong. Creatine is one of the best ways to get it, and the best supplement that's out there, one of the cleanest ones, is over at Jocko Fuel. So go to jockofuel.com and then use code JPPOD20 to save yourself 20%. I'm going to toss it over to JP for some final thoughts.
Yeah, so one, I'm always thankful for our listeners and the engagement that we have. I'm actually going to be speaking at a men's conference. I believe this is like within a week or two of this coming out. That's out in Amarillo. I've done stuff with Walking in Truth Ministries before, the pursuits that we've talked about. If you go to pursuitfortruth.com, you can see that event that I'll be speaking at. I'm headed out, it's from October 24th to the 26th. I'm going to be there for the whole thing. Really looking forward to just participating in that, attending, and then also being able to speak and kind of share my testimony and some things. So if you want to join me and a handful of people out there, it's going to be an awesome time. But, as I reflect about what we talked about today, the thing that just pops up and we talk about a lot, but it's just intentionality.
Yeah.
Like this client is very intentional with taking care of their employees. They're very thoughtful and intentional with providing me that time and that opportunity to do something that I was not expecting at all. And as leaders, as husbands, as fathers, as wives, and as mothers and just humans, I think we can all do a better job being more intentional with building relationships and showing people that we care about them. So I hope this episode has been a reminder to go do the work that is needed, to put in the effort, to build your legacy, and to never settle. This has been the JP Dinnell Podcast, episode 108.